From the Zimmer Radio Network headquarters, it's your morning addiction.
No ice, no KKK, no fascist USA!
Wake Up Missouri with Stephanie Bell.
This administration is absolutely focused.
The Zimmer News Team.
We expected for months that when we entered City Hall, we would likely inherit a grim fiscal situation.
And now, introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
On behalf of our family, we want to thank all of you for the prayers for our beloved mom, Nancy. We feel them, and we continue to believe that she feels them too. Our mom is a kind, faithful, loyal, fiercely loving woman of goodness and light. She's funny, and spunky, and clever. She has grandchildren that adore her and crowd around her and cover her with kisses. She loves fun and adventure. She is a devoted friend. She is full of kindness and knowledge. Talk to her and you'll see.
The light is missing from our lives. Nancy is our mother. We are her children. She is our beacon. She holds fast to joy in all of life's circumstances. She chooses joy day after day, despite having already passed through great trials of pain and grief. We are always going to be merely human, just normal human people who need our mom. Mama, if you're listening, we need you to come home. We miss you.
And on it goes as the Guthrie family, Savannah and her siblings, release an emotional video last night saying, "We're ready to talk," later in this 2 or 3 minute video. And it's quite emotional. It's from the heart. We don't know if it was coordinated with law enforcement. People have analyzed it in the wake of reports that there has been a ransom note sent to local media, not to the family apparently, and a press conference planned for this morning. They other developments yesterday in the Nancy Guthrie disappearance case. They cordoned off the area with crime scene tape. Interesting, after they'd already been in the house and out and reviewed it. I'm Randy Tobler. There's Stephanie Bell, John Marsh, and Drake Whitman. We're trying to figure out
who kidnaps a grandma.
Who kidnapped Grandma? 70 miles from the border. There's a precedent years ago of the cartels taking people from their homes. It's odd that they would choose this particular older woman. Has an infirmity. We're not sure what the medicines are that apparently she needs for life sustenance. Within 24 hours, it was said earlier in the week that she would perish. They were collecting evidence. They had dogs out yesterday. They were really combing the area around, the grounds around that home. Some desert area out there with all kinds of shrubbery and everything. I heard an interview with one of the neighbors there in the neighborhood said, you'd think that one of our cameras, someone's security camera might catch something, but you look at all of the stubby plants on one hand, but other desert cactuses on the other. There's a lot of blockage there.
Okay,
blockage.
I agree with you, but also don't hate on the desert plants. I mean,
I'm not hating on them.
No, you're hating on them.
It is pretty.
She has an agave that my mom has that looks very similar. They're the same breed of plants. So.
How do you make that agave? Does she have like the big?
Roadrunner
and Wile E. Coyote
stand-ups.
Yeah.
So the Wile E. Coyote cactus, not to get too nerdy, is a saguaro cactus. Yeah. It's only native to Arizona. Nowhere else in the world.
Welcome to the biology hour of the Eagle.
That's right. Yeah. Drake brings you his version of the petrified forest this morning. Yeah.
Well, it's a sad story, and it's really one of those mysteries that's captivating, I think, the hearts and the minds of so many people trying to figure out what in the world happened here. The man that I heard said he's been in the interview said he's been there for 40 or 50 years. They've had a couple of petty crimes where someone left their their car door unlocked, and youth took something out of the glove box. But wow.
Yeah, and it seems. I mean, it seems targeted, and
yeah.
I think there were like reports that maybe it was like the son-in-law, but then the police came out and said no, like we don't really have a suspect. And then this whole ransom note, it wasn't like left at the house. It was sent somewhere else. So it's like, what if that's just like a copycat or someone trying to get money who saw the disappearance?
Right.
And then all of her technology, I think, was left in the house, but then it's bizarre. And then she's like not very mobile. They said she can't walk so many feet without assistance.
Yeah, I think the sheriff said she had very high blood pressure to be controlled and some other undisclosed medical issues.
If she has an element of congestive heart failure that's pretty severe and she needs medicine for that, her lungs could fill up with water, and she could go into into serious fatal congestive heart failure in short order.
But I'd assume if you want ransom money, you need to return the person alive. Right?
Yeah, and later on in the video, they asked for that. We'll play a little bit more of it here.
And our home. She is 84 years old. Her health, her heart is fragile. She lives in constant pain. She is without any medicine. She needs it to survive. She needs it not to suffer. We, too, have heard the reports about a ransom letter in the media. As a family, we are doing everything that we can. We are ready to talk.
Ready to talk. That's interesting. In the news reporting, John, they said that she didn't attend her Sunday church service after the night before. She had dinner with her daughter, Annie, and son-in-law, Tommaso Cioni, C-I-O-N-I, on Saturday evening. And I found this interesting. Nanos, this is the Pima County Sheriff, told the New York Times, he added that Cioni dropped her off at her home afterward and made sure she made it inside. As reported by whom? To the sheriff.
Him.
Bum, bum, bum. I'm just saying, that's an interesting report.
Does sound a little fishy, doesn't it?
It's an interesting way to unfold that story.
I saw one of the pieces online on one of the networks where they were doing kind of a stand-up, kind of B-roll of the house and all, and said that, well, it was valued at $1 million. And they also said, yeah, but the family bought that. She moved into the house in the 80s when it was $80-some thousand. So. Okay. Was about 3,500 square feet home. So,
well, I don't want to incriminate anyone, but it's interesting. But how many times have any of you that have older moms or dads or both, you drop them off, you pick them up for dinner, you drop them off. So that's what you'd tell law enforcement. I dropped them off. I saw mom into the house. I kissed her goodnight and went on my way. I mean, that's legit, And then they can't. Apparently, they somehow. They said this morning, or I heard this morning, that she had security cameras, and the camera on the doorbell was out, but apparently there were other cameras either in or around the house or property, and that somehow things didn't get up to the cloud. So they're having to somehow go to the local servers and work with the company. I didn't know that there was some kind of intermediate storage opportunity before it goes to the cloud. I thought it either did or it didn't, and that's it. I don't know. I'm not a tech guy. If you're a tech guy or gal out there, let me know. Drake, do you know that? How could they do that? If you have a you don't have to buy a subscription to get your Google Nest or your Ring or whatever, but you can in real time be notified, and you can look on your phone and see what's going on. But if you want that archive,
you have to pay a subscription. Yeah.
So there is some short-term stuff that I think you can get without payment, but I wonder if there's somewhere somewhere they've got it in a vault that they only release to you if you pay, or if it just doesn't exist anywhere once it's gone if you don't pay. I don't.
Yeah, the way I understand about Ring cameras, I may be wrong. I don't have one, but I think the video does go directly to the cloud. I think that was kind of one of the big attractions of the whole software and the way it was designed.
It has to go to the cloud if you can, without subscription, get temporary view of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have one on the front of my house, and like it alerts you when someone's there in real time. And yes, you can like save the videos, but you do have to pay for it. Or it auto saves.
You know what's really cool about the way those cameras can discriminate among things, like person with package, at your door or not. I mean, it's weird. Don't recognize the person at your door because it's not seen them before.
It just seems like in today's day and age to like vanish with very little evidence seems like impossibility.
But dripping blood.
Some blood.
Right?
And, they took the Ring camera. So, it's clear something bad went down.
573-874-9390 if you want to weigh in on this on the text. 800-529-5572. The tip line for that episode out there is 1-800-CALL-FBI. I guess it's for any episode. That sounds like a national number, 1-800-CALL-FBI. Later on, we're going to talk with Mitch Brown because there's some interesting polling out of Signal. That's CYGNAL polling. Now, they are a partisan polling group. They do polling for Republicans generally, and Trump, I know. But they're interesting polling on Americans' thoughts on the whole ICE situation, the immigration detention, and the net that Holman and friends are casting. And then that's at 7:08. And then Brandy Meeks joins us. Of course, she's the president of the Vitae Foundation. They do the great work in pursuit of pro-life research. And they've got a new study out, right?
Yeah, she was just up at March for Life, which we previously talked to Congressman Onder in advance of. And, they've come out with a new men's study that they've just launched, and she's going to tell us more about that.
A men's study. So I don't think that's an interesting angle on the whole abortion issue.
I think it's the first of its kind.
Yeah, the men's angle on it. I think a lot of guys do feel sometimes left out about this. I don't know. We'll have to see. I have to unpack that later on at 8:08. And, of course, in other news yesterday, as we were wrapping up the program, Tom Homan was just getting wound up with his announcement that things are going to change in Minneapolis. And, he had some good things to say.
Given this increase in unprecedented collaboration, and as a result of the need for less law enforcement officers to do this work in a safer environment, I have announced effective immediately, we will draw down 700 people effective today.
And I'm sure on the Daily DC Rundown, Stephanie will have more detail on that because it's not just a matter of, we're just taking down 700, see you later. There's more about that. So we'll cover that and other goings-on the Daily DC Rundown here on Wake Up Missouri on the Zimmer News Radio Network. We'll be back. The Wet Work.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
Minneapolis. What did you learn?
I learned that maybe we can use a little bit of a softer touch, but you still have to be tough. These are criminals. We're dealing with really hard criminals. But look, I've called the people. I've called the governor. I've called the mayor, spoke to them, had great conversations with them, and then I see them ranting and raving out there, literally as though a call wasn't made.
Donald Trump with NBC News. Here's Stephanie with the Daily DC Rundown.
Trump saying he needs to use a softer touch was not on my Trump 2.0 bingo card. That's quite a statement from him yesterday to NBC.
So good to hear. Gosh, is that good to hear.
And of course, that's after we heard from Tom Homan, the border czar, that they are going to draw down 700 ICE officials out of Minneapolis, although 2,000 DHS officers will remain. But, you know, the polling, Trump watches the polls. We know that. He listens to the media. He watches his approval rating. And it's not for an issue that was the number one, you know, for most people, the number one issue in the last election and something that was really positive for Trump. It's not heading in the right direction as we get closer and closer to the midterms. We got a big tranche of documents, I think last Friday in the Epstein files. Now, it is having massive repercussions. Of course, we heard that Bill and Hillary Clinton have reversed course and are going to testify before the House Oversight Committee. We're expecting that testimony later this month. But overseas, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer fired Ambassador Peter Mandelson over his Epstein ties. Bill Gates has actually apologized. He denies the claims that are in these emails. And of course, it was weird the way that some of the information came out because it was actually like Epstein emailing himself. But Gates said, every minute I spent with him, I regret. And then a major law firm, Paul Weiss, lost its chair, Brad Karp, who's showed up in those emails in the latest batch of emails, showing he was like socializing with Epstein and then asking him for favors for his son, something about Woody Allen. So the ramifications are pretty significant.
You know, there's a doctor named Peter Attia who's pretty popular in the longevity space and does a great podcast. He's had to really say, boy, I was young and impressed with all the networking and everything, and there's some emails that are semi-incriminating, but nothing evil. But there's a lot of people that are walking back their relationship with Epstein.
There are. In media news, the Washington Post laid off 300 journalists, roughly 30% of the entire company. They're calling it a strategic reset. They apparently fired their entire sports department, or laid off their entire sports department. Of course, we've got some pretty big sports things coming up, like the Super Bowl and the Winter Olympics this weekend. So that's surprising. But White House comms director said, just a reminder that printing fake news is not a profitable business model. So they're taking advantage of it. Also, the Supreme Court gave the California Democrats a victory yesterday. Although it's not a final ruling, the Supreme Court refused to block California's new congressional map, in which they could pick up 5 additional seats that would basically cancel out Texas's redistricting. We're also hearing that Virginia Dems, who are proposing all sorts of crazy stuff, they want to redraw their map, and Florida Republicans are planning a special session. So the redistricting rodeo continues. We saw yesterday the golf course potential assassinator got life in prison, found guilty on all 5 counts.
The guy that defended himself, remember?
Yeah.
He was his own attorney. Big
Awful.
mistake.
We've got a primary in New Jersey today. It is a Democrat seat, so everyone's kind of watching who is going to win that 4-way Democrat race to fill Mikey Sherrill's old House seat. We are on day 6 of the Grandma Guthrie watch. And Scott Bessent is back in the hot seat today and had some pretty sharp remarks yesterday, which we might get to.
Eric Schmidt had some pretty sharp remarks for a Soros-backed NGO CEO. That coming up next. Wake Up Missouri, we're going to bring you some, I think some promising, some positive, mostly anyway, polling numbers out of Signal polling at 7:08. I mean, you know, in a season politically for those of us on the conservative side of the fence, that things, you know, there's some storm clouds ahead of the midterms. We can't deny that. Historically, even if things were going well, historically, it would just be little chance of preserving both chambers. Now, you could argue that maybe one for sure and then the other almost are in peril. But ahead of that, there's some interesting polling out of Signal. We'll be talking to Mitch Brown, a pollster there, at 7:08. And then later on, VTA President Brandy Meeks joins us at 8:08 to talk about some research about abortion and its impact on men and so how they feel about that as well. So we'll talk with her about that at 8:08. Now, I got to set this up. Eric Schmidt is one of our faves in Congress. It's fair to say that, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Because the way Senator Schmidt communicates so clearly, so firmly, so common-sensely. That's a new word, new phrase, common-sensely. There was testimony yesterday with the head of a Soros-backed NGO. Now, have you heard of Public Citizen? You've heard of Public Citizen, haven't you? When you think of Public Citizen, doesn't that have a nice ring to it? Public Citizen. It's like, oh, that must be a nice firm that is acting in the interest of me and my peeps, right? And they're always doing good advocacy for all the things that us public citizens would like to do, like to look at, all the public policies that'll make us, here, Public Citizen at citizen.org, protecting health, safety, and democracy. Could there be, in this 250th birthday year of this beautiful country, could there be any better nonprofit consumer advocacy organization that champions, according to their website, the public interest, your interest in the halls of power? Now, wouldn't you want to support Public Citizen? Well, Eric Schmidt had some different thoughts on that.
Accept that. That's correct. But what you have shown in the questioning we've seen before, in just these examples, the public interest isn't your interest at all. It is not your interest at all. You use racism as an attempt to intimidate people to get your way. And it's not 2020 anymore. The American people are over it. So what you're going to find is we are going to prosecute, and it has nothing to do with race. We're going to prosecute because fraud was committed on a level that is so offensive to this country. Your words that don't mean anything aren't going to stop what's coming. And I want you to take that back to George Soros and all these ridiculous funders you have to try to muddle the issue, because justice is coming. And by the way, if I have it my way, we will denaturalize all these fraudsters and send them home.
He was on fire. And if you look at the graphic, of course, now it's become customary for legislators as they're making their speeches, whether it's in testimony or otherwise, to really, talk about. And so he has this graphic up that that behind him that says all of the issues in which they say all of the public policy issues that 20 things that Public Citizen finds racist, algorithms, a border wall, capitalism, one after one, and Donald Trump, So it's pretty much anything that you would say, well, I don't know, is there anything wrong with that? And capitalism is another one. And so I just thought it was real rich that he really went after him. A border wall, being pro-life, checking citizenship on the census, fiscal responsibility, not making D.C. a state, not defunding the police. So all the things that, whenever there's controversy about this, Public Citizen has come down on the side of the progressive woke mob. The Department of Justice is something that Public Citizen finds racist. Senator Schmidt's making a name for himself with these kind of sound bites, and we know that they're packaged, they're made for prime time. He's very good at that, but he's also very effective at that because he speaks so simply, and I think to every one of us that are just trying to slog our way through life, living our simple little lives, and we don't understand why a border wall to protect our sovereignty, which happens to be a border between brown people and white people, mostly at the Texas border, why that's racist. It's not racist. That just happens to be the ethnicity of the people on either side of a border wall, right?
And like on the pro-life issue, I think the data bears out, like most babies that are aborted are black,
Yep.
right?
And that
so
was
you hear that a lot, like, hey, like, it's not okay to abort anybody because of their race or because of their, their financial status or whatever. And so, that being pro-life actually saves black lives.
And
right?
remember, Margaret Sanger, who founded that in 1942. I mean, something called the American Birth Control League was started in 1921, and then in 1942 it became Planned Parenthood. But I mean, there's some pretty good history that this was really about eugenics in one sense, right? And so I just love it when these Soros-funded NGOs. And by the way, they're getting tax breaks, which means that we're making up for some of the taxes they're not paying for this kind of propaganda stuff that they put out.
Well, and what we know is when everything is racist, then nothing is racist. Yep. And racism is bad, and we should call out true and horrible racism. But when we start saying everything is racist or everything is fascist, then it diminishes when we do see true racism, and it should be called out.
And I think you're seeing, I don't know whether it's just my algorithm. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. If you have a more progressive or left-leaning algorithm, tell me if I'm wrong. But I'm seeing more and more people of color, minorities, posting X posts and Instagram, but mainly on X, that's like, hey, don't take us for granted anymore, Democrat Party. Don't take us for granted anymore, progressive, woke liberals. What have all your policies really, really done to advance our plight? Not much, whereas under the first Trump administration, they saw wages of folks who in those demographics tend not to be. I mean, there are some exceptions, but they tend not to be in the upper 1%. It was working people who really gained with economic power and wage growth and purchasing power growth during Trump 1. And I think it's just good to see that, like you say, racism for the 95% of us, 99% is over. It's done. We don't think about that. Like, I don't care what your color is. Just what do you do? How do you live your life? What are you doing to make a difference in the world? I don't. And I think these. But what is the other group that's so? They have such the Southern Poverty Law Center. Yeah. Right. Oh, we're looking out for the oppressed, the underprivileged. Forget about it. They're just a radical communist organization. Eric Schmidt holding forth in the Senate there. It's good to see.
Well, Southern Poverty Law Center had their successful suits. It pretty much disbanded the KKK. I mean, I'm not sticking up for them, but they were in the trenches on that. But on a lot of other issues, you're right.
Well, a lot of places, I think a lot of our formerly prestigious academic institutions they may have had some progressives and liberals, but they also had conservatives. It wasn't like the whole agenda from the administration down, including student organizations, was just radical leftists, right? And I never had a problem with having leftists, and I knew that when I went to school. I mean, you'd had that.
The nature of the beast.
Well, and it's hard when they're getting all of this funding. I mean, a lot of it ends up in the courts, right? And so for years, I think the Democrats got out in front of us with these, do-gooder, I mean, that was what they would call them, organizations, and they had massive funding, and they'd bring these lawsuits. And I think you've seen in the last probably 2 decades a resurgence and like a birth of a lot of organizations from the right to try to have funding to fight back. I know a lot of folks, whether you're talking about folks like Judicial Watch, who've been around for a while, who are pushing back from the right, but I know Harmeet Dillon had started a nonprofit while she was in private practice to take up some of these causes and try to push back, and you've seen a lot of folks stepping up to the plate who could be in private practice doing making a lot of money, but instead, fighting the good fight from the right, trying to just counterbalance some of these big Democrat organizations, whether it be news, you see, or whether it be, these litigation kind of organizations.
Yeah. I mean, it's good to see there are people on our side of the fence that are fighting back and pushing back, but they just don't seem to get the prominence. And I think it's that partnership that's, not formal but unstated between the media and the leftist organizations. They just seem to have gotten a foothold. Stephanie, I have to ask you this. I saw this post online, and I was hoping you could help me unpack this. Did you see this post by Donald Trump on Truth Social that said, sleazebag influencer and lawyer Leonard Leo, now he was the chief honcho, now I think he's on the board, but he was of the Federalist Society, right?
Yeah,
Which is a respected...
I've met him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why would Trump say sleazebag influencer and lawyer Leonard Leo, who has legal issues of his own, goes around telling everyone how he has the legal system rigged? I hope that's not true, and if it is, it should be thoroughly looked into. Leonard has a big and very dangerous mouth. Now, wasn't the Federalist Society sort of like the de facto supplier of the list that Trump used in the first election to say, this is my short list of Supreme Court nominees?
That's what folks said. And I mean, many judges who are still being appointed have some affiliation with the Federalist Society. We're getting ready for our statewide.
Well, yeah, you're a member.
Yeah, we have a statewide conference that's coming up here at the end of the month. Some of our new judges are going to be there and, doing CLE presentations and letting us know the latest.
What's behind the feud between Trump and Leo?
There's been a long, Politico.
Oh God, it goes back to the 20-teens, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Politico had a big article last year in May of 2025 about the fallout. I don't know exactly what started the fallout.
All right, I was just wondering. It just sort of confused me. I thought it was odd. At any rate, it's funny how one thing you can say about Trump is, as long as things are going his way in whatever interaction you have with him, he loves you.
Yeah, there was
the greatest ever.
In the Politico article, they cite a bad court decision, according to Trump, on the U.S. Court of International Trade, and they quote Trump saying, "I'm so disappointed in the Federalist Society because of the bad advice they gave me on numerous judicial nominations."
So if all of the judgments that come down from Trump-nominated judges aren't his way,
then he's mad.
Then you're a bad judge, and the person who endorsed you is a bad organization.
And of course, the Federalist Society isn't a political organization; it is committed to the rule of law. Let's just say, but they're more originalist, aren't they? As a rule, yeah. So they have it right in many ways. How you define that? Guess what? There's some good news on life expectancy. We'll talk about that when we come back on Make Missouri Healthy Again.
It's Wake
We've been talking for, over a year or two now how the life expectancy in America has fallen. And it's been sort of a downer kind of a story. A lot of that was a collision of COVID, the opioid crisis, fentanyl deaths, of course, from the open borders, and homicide, which really all collided sort of in the late teens into the early 20s, and reduced their life expectancy for a baby born at that time from 78 and a half years to 76.4 years. So a little more than 2-year fall in life expectancy. And it's sort of an interesting statistic. That really reflects what is projected if nothing changes to result in the life expectancy for a child born at the time it's reported, right? So it doesn't mean if you're 70 today that your life expectancy is 76.5. It really reflects the prediction. So it's a little complicated. But U.S. life expectancy increased to 79 years in 2024. And that's good. Life expectancy hit a record in 2024 as death rates for heart disease, cancer, COVID, and drug overdoses fell. So while we saw homicide rates, Steph, we've been talking about how those have really plummeted in the Trump era, and especially the last year, things have gone down. But they were heading down a little bit before that. Things had been stalled at about 78 and a half years, as I said, before the COVID, and then things really crashed. But age-adjusted mortality fell in 2024 for unintentional injuries, including overdoses, about 15% lower. Kidney disease, 4% lower. Diabetes, 3% lower. Lower respiratory diseases, 3%. Alzheimer's, 2.2%, and cancer, 2%. Death rates fell for all age groups and fell the most among those 15 to 44. So the good news is that things are looking better, and I think that we can continue that trend. And I would predict that with the advent of these GLP-1 drugs, especially if they become affordable, as I think the medical community and patients work together to do what's called microdosing and managing to where I have some patients just using a little bit of it every couple of weeks. It's like, yeah, I can tell. I talked to a patient yesterday. Yeah, about a day or so before I'm due for my 2-week, because that's what her secret interval has become. And it's almost like insulin dosing for diabetics. People are learning to see, people with diabetes learn, well, I know when I eat certain things, I got to give myself a little more insulin. When I eat other things, well, not so much. You learn how to manage that, those of you who have diabetes. The same with these GLP-1s. It's really interesting. And she said, that's where I've landed. And it's less than the maximum dose. The interval is longer than the interval. Now, again,
it's cheaper because that stuff isn't cheap.
Disclaimer here in case the attorneys for Zimmer Network are listening. That's not medical advice. The FDA has not approved that dosing regimen or schedule, and I am not endorsing that. I'm just telling you what some people are telling me.
Randy, can we, after the show, record like you doing the full FCC thing so we can be like, this is not actual medical,
We'll
whatever.
speed it up.
This is not medical advice. You must talk to your physician.
And you might have 10 days of diarrhea.
Yeah.
Make sure you put the side effects in
You
there.
may develop
Gotta have
TDS.
those.
You may vote for, Harris in the next election if you don't take this per FDA regulations. No, but I think we're finding that there's more to the story than what the original studies about these things showed. But the point is, if this leads to sustained weight loss, weight management for people, I think we're going to see these numbers on life expectancy continue to go up. Now,
we're not having more babies, so we need people to live longer, right?
Will there be?
That's worse, right? Because now they're on the government dime, and we don't have enough people to replenish it.
What about that Social Security lockbox? Oh no. No, but
how many years before Wegovy and all the fat shots go generic?
It depends. I think it's roughly 10-ish years for most of those things. I don't know. I'm not a patent attorney. We'll ask. Have a patent attorney friend that can weigh in on that?
I can look.
Why don't you do some research on that? Well, there's some good news coming out of the polling ahead of the midterms. Talk with Mitch Brown from Signal. Stay tuned.
increase in unprecedented collaboration. And as a result of the need for less law enforcement officers to do this work in a safer environment, I have announced effective immediately, we will draw down 700 people effective today.
That was Tom Homan yesterday in a landmark announcement surrounding the controversy in Minneapolis between the surge in troops brought in by the federal government to try to get out those criminals that they have chronicled over and over, the pedophiles, the murderers, the rapists, versus the optics that we saw. And the question is, who won? Did the Minneapolisans win? That's a new one, Minneapolisans. Or did the administration win, as they're now standing down a little bit? Tom Homan says, well, that's because we don't need as many enforcers now that we're going to get people handing over those in jail to us, where it only takes a couple of officers, immigration officials, to come in and arrest them rather than 6 or 8 or 10 to go combing the streets and knocking on doors and giving these bad optics. But optics translate to opinions, and opinions translate to votes. And there's a very pivotal, critical, existentially important midterm coming up. Mitch Brown joins us now, pollster at Signal, that's CYGN.AL, Signal Polling, with a big poll to give us a little bit of the temperature of where the electorate is now. How you doing, Mitch? Thanks for being with us.
Hey, Randy. Great to talk to you again.
You know, I'm looking at this. I'm looking at a Wall Street Journal opinion piece by Rahm Emanuel from a couple days ago, saying the GOP is in trouble. Polls and pundits have made it abundantly clear. Trump is underwater, so much so that even Joe Rogan comparing the deployment of ICE to the Gestapo. Whoa, woe is us. The sky is falling. What is the latest Signal poll telling us ahead of the midterms, at least with regard to the ICE and deportation and the whole immigration management?
Yeah, I mean, I think both of those people are out of touch. The average voter doesn't actually care what Rahm Emanuel, the former mayor of Chicago, or Joe Rogan thinks. Joe Rogan lives in a walled compound and doesn't have to deal with any of the day-to-day life that has changed because of immigration. The average voter, 74% of Americans believe that those who have crossed the border to enter this country have committed a crime. 62% of Americans want those people deported. So it's not just, hey, we want violent criminals gone. No, we want all of these people gone. They are criminals. Entering the country is illegal. We have to have sovereign nations. We have to have borders that are real. And 54% of Americans still support using ICE to go in and remove all of these criminal aliens.
It's amazing because you look at your poll and it just is at odds what we hear on the legacy media, what, of course, is streaming across all of the different, algorithms. And even if you're a conservative and on your X feed, you get, Walz and Fry and everyone saying, oh, no. They're trying to nationalize the little microcosm that is, the extreme left environment there in Minneapolis. I find that just fascinating. And, 73% say entering the U.S. without legal permission. Did you ask them about the difference, how they feel about the voters, how they feel about the deportation of, quote, criminals versus those who broke the law by coming here for 8, 10 years, 12 years ago, and they're living, quote, peacefully?
Well, the American people don't really make a discernment between the two. They are all criminals. Okay. They committed a crime to get here. People are not in favor of amnesty. So it's like both sides trying to create this dichotomy. Well, we're just going after the criminals. Well, they are all criminals. It is all a detriment to society. That's how people are viewing it. And if you go in and ask people across the board how they are impacted by immigration, they've seen their communities change. They've seen their way of life change. In the past 15, 20 years, it's gotten exponentially worse with the rapid increase of people. Communities have been changed. Whole states have been changed by this rapid immigration. And if we don't have any stop and any enforcement, removing just people who have committed a second crime once they are already on American soil is not enough. We need to deport everyone and strengthen the legal immigration system. It's the only way to actually achieve an end to a means here instead of just trying to peel out grain by grain of sand.
How big a detriment has it been to the ICE agents on the ground, all the bad press they've received in recent days and months?
I mean, I couldn't even imagine. I mean, having to deal with that, they are doing their jobs. more than half of the ICE agents in Minneapolis are Hispanic. So it's a kind of a funny counter narrative there. But, it's difficult, especially when those are the places where they don't get cooperation. I mean, most other cities they go into, they have arrangements with the local authorities, so they turn over anyone who's in their jails and allow ICE to operate. But when we see it in places like this, it's a programmed resistance. And so the ICE agents can't sleep. Their hotels are ransacked. They're ambushed every day. And we're now somehow told to believe by legacy media that these are somehow good people, that Alex Brody was a good guy, that Renee Good was a good person. Again, vehicular manslaughter doesn't really seem like a great person, but that's the narrative that they will keep trying to do because it's the only spin that they have. It's the only thing they can do, because when you see the numbers, and overwhelmingly it is supported by Americans, the thing you have to do is make martyrs out of these fake resistance soldiers.
Now, tell us how this issue might affect the midterms. I think the midterms are on everybody's mind, but with the looming shutdown issues still not solved, and with some of the other polling we've been seeing on this issue, what's your polling say about how this might affect us in the midterms?
Immigration is going to have no impact on the midterms at all. Affordability is still the only issue. Again, this is a mandate that's been given down. These same numbers that I've told you now haven't changed from right before when Donald Trump was elected to when he took office last year to now. Immigration's an issue that hasn't changed. Again, affordability is the only thing. So that is where the Trump administration needs to make significant strides by November, or there will be some significant impact in the midterms.
So will the just frenetic energy from the left on this issue, on immigration, will that, though, in one sense, maybe be a negative in terms of trying the likelihood that Republicans maintain both chambers, in the sense that it's always about turnout in the midterms? And yeah, while the issue of accountability may be big, of affordability may be big, man, these lefties just seem they're fired up over this issue. So is that going to further fuel the likelihood that complacency on the part of Republican-leaning voters might, be outweighed by vigor over this issue, or not?
The Dem base is going to show up regardless. They hate Donald Trump. They want resistance. Whether it was this or something else, they were going to find a way to fight. Whether it was over federal workers being fired, they are going to be energized. There is no way of stopping the Dem energy. If, again, Trump placates to them and doesn't have any more enforcement issues, that's not going to somehow turn down the Democrat turnout. We need to find ways to boost not only Republican-based turnout, but that independent voter turnout, those kind of Trump-only voters that voted for him in 24. If we don't have those people showing up in some of these swing seats, because end of the day, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter how energized people are in Los Angeles or Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about like a few swing states and a few swing congressional seats. Mm-hmm. And we need those middle-of-the-ground voters. And the only issue that's on their mind is what's happening at their dining room table and what their pocketbook looks like.
Okay, so let's look at it from the perspective of those people in the middle, the quote, independents. What's it going to take? I mean, Donald Trump promised that prices were going to go down. And while they have on eggs and a couple other things, I mean, they haven't when it comes to energy. Big paper in, what was it, The Economist or Financial Times, that was saying, hey, Trump promised, lower prices. And because of the data centers and other reasons, energy is just skyrocketing in certain Ohio and other, sort of swing type states. How much can the one big, beautiful bill provide, and in enough time to make those voters likely congressional Republican voters?
Yeah, again, I'm not an economist, but I would say, first of all, housing. We need to find a solution to bring down the cost of home ownership and rental rates in America right now. That is a huge issue. Like you said, energy. It's great that the price of gas is down and a few things at the grocery are down, but meat is still very high. If you go across the board, people haven't really seen that much relief in their grocery bill. And when we talk to independent voters, like I do every single day, this is what they bring up, is that they don't feel like anything's gotten better. They still feel like they're burdened by things, that they can't afford a simple $1,000 emergency fund, that if anything goes wrong, like that's the group of people that we're talking about. Young voters, the young voters that moved towards Trump feel like they're in dire economic position because they don't have any wages increase. While everything else in American life has gone up exponentially since COVID, wages have not. and young people have not. Their unemployment rate is still high. Young men with a college degree have just as high of an unemployment rate as those without. Again, it's not a great place to be. And so there's a few things that have to be changed along those lines, because while the economy overall is doing great and the market is doing great, that does not translate down to the people that we need to swing elections. We need to have growth in wages, cost of living be down when it comes to housing, and for their overall amenities, whether it be the food, the energy prices, everything that goes into running a normal household, those prices really do need to drop.
We're talking with Mitch Brown from Signal Polling. That's cygn.al. You can catch this poll on that website. Okay, before we let you go, it's sort of early. We only have, 8 plus months, 9 months to go before the midterms. Some of these voters, Trump picked up Hispanic voters, picked up young black males, black males of all stripes and ages. Some reports that those folks are peeling off. Is that all driven by sort of expectations not being matched by reality among those groups? Is that what's driving some of those peel-offs, if it's happening?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good assessment of it. It's not like a bleeding loss, but again, you have to remember that despite Trump winning all of these swing states, they were all still close. So a 2% loss across each of these groups could swing a state, could swing a congressional district. And the real issue, again, is those people came to Donald Trump. They didn't come to Republicans. And so when you look at this without him on the top of the ticket, I feel like Republicans are a little complacent, saying, well, no, those people voted for a Republican named Donald Trump. They're going to vote for a Republican. No, they are not. That is not a guarantee. You have to do that work. You have to become likable as an individual candidate.
Well, I'm sure glad
on that top of the ticket.
I'm sure glad you're joining us today and not on our Feel Good Friday, because I'm not feeling very good about that.
Well, I think your message to activists on the ground in the various county central committees is, hey, don't make this a national election. Don't make it about Donald Trump. Make it about that incumbent that needs to be reelected, or that new district where there's a chance to take a blue and turn it red. Right? Got to keep it local and regional.
Correct. Localize everything and become an individual candidate that people can get behind.
All right. Beautiful.
To all of my candidates.
Beautiful words. Data driven from Mitch Brown with Signal Polling. We'll stay in touch with you, Mitch. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Randy.
All right, there you go, guys. There's some work to be done. Coming back in a minute. Stay tuned.
It's
On any breaking news, in the wake of a very passionate video posted by Savannah Guthrie and her siblings concerning the disappearance of the abduction of their mother, Nancy Guthrie. Nothing real new. Keep an eye on that. But in the meantime, you remember, Stephanie, when I think it was Steve Bucci or one of our national security people was telling us that if you have one of these smart picture frames that, where you can digitize pictures and then
get it for grandma and grandpa.
And they rotate through. Yeah. I still have one in the box because we had one about that time that I think one of our kids gave us. I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that because they spy on you.
It was Colonel Booch.
Wasn't it Booch? And
he said, just make sure it's made in America.
Yeah, well, good luck on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so made in China because they spy in China. Well, now I know many of you have successfully switched from real tobacco, to get your nicotine to vaping. You're vaping. Or get an e-cigarette, right? Well, guess what? Eric Schmidt has been joined by 14 other senators to say, whoa, wait a minute. Even though they're supposed to be the kibosh on Chinese vapes, they could be used by the CCP to spy on Americans. So now your vape and your e-cigarette can spy on you.
It said these devices have the capacity to initiate data breaches or malware infections, apparently can connect to your cell phone. A vape?
So every time you inhale, Xi knows what the back of your palate looks like.
So Randy says, return to the old school, light up a cig.
No, well, that'll reduce
saying.
the life expectancy and keep the Social Security lockbox open longer. Rush Limbaugh used to say that. The best thing we could do for America's economy is continue to subsidize tobacco so that we wouldn't have to spend as much on Medicare and Social Security. Yeah.
So as someone who's around vapes a lot in my generation, they definitely do have the technical ability.
How could that happen?
I swear, there are some vapes that look like iPhones. Like they're little tiny iPhones, or like remember those thick iPods?
They're that
Stephanie?
big?
Yeah, they're big. They have screens. This is a thing. I'm not kidding. I'll show you some pictures.
Screens on your vape?
Yeah, there's screens. It shows you what percent your battery's at, what flavor, how much, whatever. But I think the important thing in this story isn't that the Chinese are spying, because that'll get the headline.
Yeah.
But it's saying that the Chinese are actually using the sales from these vapes to fund their military and other things like that. So I think that's more of a realistic thing. But Geek Bar is probably the most notable Chinese vape, and ever since the tariffs, you can't find them anywhere.
Well, the Trump DOJ announced the capture of roughly 90 million worth of vapes in one fell swoop at a port last year, and they've tried to crack down on this. But like I said, Eric Schmidt, among others, have said this is an aggressive multi-agency enforcement action. But a lot of those vapes are probably already out there, right? They're sort of like illegals that come into the country and then they spread out and they're there.
So what about the vapes? Most of them are disposable. So you use it until it's done and then you throw it away. So, you can definitely cut off the supply of them.
How do you know if your vape is spying on you or putting malware in your computer?
When you start speaking Mandarin after every hit.
That's right. It starts playing the James Bond theme when you,
I see.
Puff on it.
When we come back, Senator Mary Elizabeth Coleman is mad at the Democrats. Well, she's mad at defunct commissions as well. That coming up on Wake Up. Welcome back into Wake Up Missouri at 8:08. Stephanie, John, Drake. We're going to talk with Vitae Foundation President Brandy Meeks. They've come out with an interesting study. I don't know that I've seen previous research. Maybe I haven't. Don't remember it. But on how men interact with the whole pro-life movement, right, and what abortion has as far as impact on men. So we'll talk about that with her then, and how things are going in the pro-life movement ahead of A3, a new A3 version being on the ballot coming up.
That's right.
So once in a while, there's interesting things that happen on the floor of the Senate or the House in Missouri that are interesting because they're instructive not only in terms of the content, but the process and a little bit of the political wrangling that goes on.
Yeah, and we talked earlier this week about how they changed the rules on cutting off debate, and they're going to require 18 signatures on the petition to basically vote to cut off debate. That was, I think, touted by some Democrats as like a win. You know, they're conceding to the Democrats to, allow debate to continue. But then we also kind of hear from folks, there's so many issues that are bipartisan and that, we can work together on. And so I guess I thought since they kind of made this concession and came to a deal on that perhaps we'd get like real debate on an issue and maybe we could get some things done that were these bipartisan issues. And yesterday, Senator Mary Elizabeth Coleman, had her bill on the floor and we'll hear her in a minute describe what it was. And they stood up and they basically filibustered for 4 hours until the bill they laid it over, which means they didn't take a vote on it because the Democrats wouldn't sit down.
So does
and I'm
that
thinking
mean
this is the issue? I get it. Last year, there were a lot of contentious issues. We were talking about pro-life. We were talking about minimum wage. I think we can all agree we have very different positions on those
petition
issues.
reform.
Yeah,
whatever.
if you want to stand up and wear
Sure.
your diaper and stand on the floor for 20 hours on an issue like that, go for it. But this was the issue they were not going to sit down on.
Explain it.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a bill that is attempting not to change the status quo of what's happening in the state, but to bring our statutes in line with what is happening currently in the state. It is eliminating from our state statutes the boards and commissions that have failed to meet, have failed to have board members appointed for many, many years. The most recent of which was enacted was in 2016. So we're talking about 10 years ago has been the last time that any of them have had an appointment made. And I'd just like to draw the body's attentions to the various boards and commissions and walk them through the bill.
Wow. So 10 years, she's just trying to address what appear to be defunct commissions and boards.
Well, and we all know, like, Missouri has hundreds of boards and, boards and commissions. This was a big thing during the Greitens administration. And then Senator Coleman, I think, led the Doge charge last year. So they go through some of these things and are like, hey, this board's no longer meeting. It doesn't have any people. The things that used to do are actually being done over here. So, let's just take this stuff off the books. So her bill requires state departments to report on obsolete administrative entities and then repeal certain other administrative entities. And she said, look, none of these things have had members or met for 10 years. So, let's just,
cut the fat off. Cut the fat off the steak.
And the Democrats stood up for, 4.5 hours and were like, you know what? Now, these are the same Democrats that are going to want money for all of their projects. And she's saying, hey, here's an area where maybe we, take this off, and I don't know how much. I doubt it saves a whole lot of money, but at least, it is expending resources, keeping track of all of these things, right? So, let's reduce the size of government. Hopefully that frees us up to do other things. And the Democrats are like, nope, we're going to keep boards around that haven't met for 10 years. And I'm sure it's not actually about this, but come on.
You were talking about filibustering wearing diapers. I mean, babies wear diapers. That seems
so do you, Randy.
That sounds like a pretty,
come on,
a pretty, petulant move, right?
This sounds like it should be a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
Well, Missouri has what? Anybody's, for the years we've covered the Capitol, they come out of the woodwork. There's like a couple hundred different boards and commissions out there. And I remember there's times it's like, wow, I never knew there was a board or a commission that governed that. I mean, there's some valid ones like Missouri Arts Council, and there's an Amber Alert advisory board, oversight kind of thing. But some of them, like you said, are just kind of out there, and they're so out there that they can't find people to serve on them, so the boards aren't active.
The state of Missouri has over 200 boards and commissions.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow. This is what infuriates voters about politics in general and politicians. It's the pettiness. And it's the among many of them, the utter inability to address serious issues seriously. And you're so right. I mean, look, if a board hasn't had any new appointments, and of course, I don't know whether they went on and talked about how many meetings they've had or not. But you have to ask yourself, I mean, we're paying for this in one way or another, right? Okay, there has to be some administrative person that maybe is in a given department who's having to funnel some work to file minutes if they are having meetings or to do something about it. And it's just cluttering things up. And she was just trying to do a simple cleanup, right? Just a little clean up the clutter. And instead of the Democrats saying, so what in particular, when did they meet? When was the last resolution they proposed that came out of committee? When was the last meaningful work they did, Mary Elizabeth? And if the answer is, well, it's been 7 years since they issued a report, couldn't we just quickly take a vote? Done.
Yeah, and I know Senator Coleman said she'd prepared some chart for all the boards and commissions that she was recommending, getting rid of or whatever. And they talked a little bit about the issue, but really they were just holding up the floor. And
I said as I told you what was coming up, that she's mad at the Dems. I don't know if she's mad at the Dems. I can't say that. I can't speak for Senator Coleman. I imagine she probably is frustrated at the Dems, though. And if you're a Dem legislator, if you're a Democrat legislator and you were part of this, please explain to us where we have it wrong. 800-529-5572. You will come to the top of the queue. 573-874-9390. You will come to the top of the text queue. I will get your word out immediately if you've got some reason that you filibustered on eliminating what appear to be obsolete, ineffective, or at least sort of inactive boards, right?
You know, I think that the entire Missouri Senate would do so much better if they just watched Stephanie Bell. Because, I mean, she has the junk jar and all of that she has, where throughout the year, things that, mean sentimentally. But at the
concert
end,
tickets and
isn't there a rule, Stephanie, that if you don't use something that year, that you should probably throw it away?
Yeah, some things belong in the trash.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that rule should be enacted in the Senate.
Better have a big dumpster handy.
I think we're seeing this in Congress. You've said it at least twice, if not 3 or 4 times this week, when we've been talking about the shutdown that was averted, and they signed those bills. They claim they're saving money year over year. I think what they probably mean is they've reduced the increase that was planned. There's rarely real cuts that occur in federal budgeting. And
here's one. One of the ones she proposes to cut is the Minority Environmental Literacy Advisory Committee.
Minority.
I've got the bill pulled
Environmental
up. Literacy Advisory Committee.
So this would be explaining to minorities about environmental jargon. Maybe?
I don't know what the original purpose of, but apparently it's on the list of things that haven't met for 10 years.
A lot of those are under the Division of Professional Registration and Licensing in the state, where they have a board to oversee massage therapists and people who do hair extensions and all that.
So is this the insulting notion that somehow black hairstylists can't understand what they read about the environmental impact of the dye that they're using on their clients' hair? I mean, are they insulting people by saying that they're not literate enough to read environmental language? I
don't know
how many other ways do you interpret
and it's all the professional licensing that goes along with all
this
those.
This is why I'm with
professions.
Cato. I'm for. There should be no licensing. Zero. None. Zilch.
Let the marketplace decide if someone's competent or not.
No, there should be none.
I'm going to side with Stephanie here. I don't want my barber to not know what to do whenever they nick my ear or cut a vein in my neck or something.
Well, if you went to your barber shop and you just sort of hung out for 10 minutes and you found that no one was coming in, and with social media you just checked it out, and if every other post was they nicked my ear, they cut my throat, their name was Sweeney Todd,
Their combs have cooties.
And I got an infection because they don't clean their razor.
Here you go. The Missouri Arthritis Advisory Board is one that's getting the axe.
And
there's a board of geologist registration.
The Missouri Cybersecurity Commission. I think this is the one that she said that they created and then has never had any members. And she's like, let's get rid of that one.
Have you ever partied with a geologist?
The Commission on Special Health. Like what?
Those geologists, they rock. But I think
there is a seismic board.
A seismic board.
Yeah, I think that one survives.
They shake it up.
They shake it up.
I'm pretty sure there's hold on, Missouri Board Seismic. Let's see.
The thing,
Missouri Seismic Safety Commission, is that what?
Let's have this debate, Mr. Drake. If you needed a haircut and you just moved to Columbia, you moved to Springfield, you moved to Fulton, you moved to Jefferson City, you moved to Moberly, you moved to Boonville, and you weren't sure. Just like you go to your auto mechanic, right? And you can see the sign there, like, I attended the certification school from Ford Motor Company, whatever. You see that. Or, Chevrolet, GMC. You would see a sign that would say, I went to the barber shop training program and I did an apprenticeship in barbering, and here's my certificate from the Barbers of America Professional Society. Okay? What more do you need? Okay, I know what you're saying. I know what you're thinking. Oh, AI, he AI'd that. Well, there's a crime for that if you misrepresent, if you fraudulently that should be a big, bad crime. That guy should probably have digits taken off that can't be used to barber again. I mean, there should be severe penalties for misrepresenting your credentials.
The haircuts I gave during COVID probably are evidence that you need some sort of training. But I'd say you can have that license on your wall and still give a bad haircut. And so, John, I think you and John are right. Like, let the marketplace decide.
Yeah.
If you can't,
No licenses, baby. No license.
Just walk around your workplace and ask your coworkers with bad haircuts where they went, and then don't go there.
573-874-9390 if you want to weigh in on that. John, what haircut are you going to give us after this?
I ain't here to cause no trouble. I'm just here to do the Super Bowl shuffle.
Sounds like more rap coming from John Marsh after the break.
It's Wake Up Missouri.
except for this.
It's the 40th anniversary of Super Bowl 20 when the Bears won their one and only Lombardi Trophy. So what better way to celebrate than with a piece of Bears memorabilia? Up for sale, the iconic sweater vest. It became a uniform for Hall of Fame Bears coach Mike Ditka. Comes with a letter from Ditka. Bring your piggy bank. Checking today, the bidding was up to $82,000. It wasn't Nike or Reebok or somebody telling a coach what to wear. Coach was going to wear it every time. You might see fans at Soldier Field in their replica sweater vests. We take you back to Super Bowl 20. Standouts for the Bears included quarterback Jim Taco Bell McMahon, running back Walter Sweetness Payton, the NFL's leading rusher at the time, Samurai Mike Singletary, the Defensive Player of the Year, and last but certainly not least, 380-pound rookie lineman and occasional running back, we remember him well, William the Refrigerator Perry.
The fridge, yeah.
The fridge. Bears over the Pats that year, 46-10.
Wow.
How about that?
I sure hope it's a competitive game, no matter who wins on Sunday.
I hope the Seahawks demolish. I mean, absolutely wipe the floor with the Patriots.
No.
I hate the Patriots.
Why? Okay, well, tell us how you really feel, Drake. Why? What's the vitriol against the Patriots? What have they done to you?
They took away our Super Bowl in 2001, 2002.
Maybe we didn't earn the Super Bowl.
Maybe we didn't earn the Super Bowl. Yeah, yeah.
Pats are 4.5-point favorites.
They are?
Yep.
You're serious?
The Pats are?
I think that. Isn't that what we said?
Wow.
No, I'm sorry, Seahawks.
Seahawks, yeah.
Yeah, the Seahawks. I mean, it all comes down to if Sam Darnold's
I think it's going to be closer than that.
Yeah. No, I mean.
You think they're going to run away with it?
Yeah, I think they're going to run away with it. The only thing to know about the Patriots this season has been the schedule. That's their nickname. They played like maybe 3-4 teams that were actually good, and the other teams they had backup quarterbacks in.
How about Seattle?
Seattle?
Did they play tough teams?
Yes, they're in the toughest division in football.
Yeah, well, are they in the 49ers? Yeah.
Yeah, 49ers
and the Rams. Yeah.
Yeah, but they have a great
tough division.
Ooh. I'm excited though.
Inside track on the prop bet, yellow Gatorade.
Oh,
on
yeah.
the coach's
People
head.
bet on what color the Gatorade is when they pour
sure.
it.
Sure.
Life is too good here. Life is too good in America. You know, that's part of the cycle of civilizations. Tyranny begets revolution. Revolution begets independence, which stimulates prosperity, which stimulates lassitude and complacency, which stimulates government plunder and tyranny, and the cycle goes round and round and round. Most societies, great societies, only last about 200 years plus. We're celebrating 250 this year. And we're
borrowed time.
And we're betting on what color the Gatorade is. I'm just saying. We have it really good in this country.
I'm not going to warrant that with a response, Randy. You're smiling at me like you're going to rile me up.
Don't take it for granted. Don't take it for granted. Remember you were talking about the Rams. Remember with Dick Vermeil and the Rams in the 2000 when they won the Super Bowl in that season? Got to get to work. Wasn't that it? Got to get to work. I think that was their slogan, something like that, right? And it resonates with me.
I think I remember that.
Got to get to work. You don't remember that. You weren't a twinkle in your parents' eyes.
I wasn't even that. I was born in 2004.
Speaking of a twinkle in your eyes, speaking of a twinkle in parents' eyes that should not be snuffed out by human intervention, called abortion, we're going to talk with the Vitae Foundation President, Brandy Meeks, when we come back. Stay tuned for that.
Administration is absolutely focused.
The Zimmer News Team.
We expected for months that when we entered City Hall, we would likely inherit a grim fiscal situation.
And now, introducing your host, Randy Tobler.
They call it women's health. They shout, "My body, my choice." But it takes two people to create human life, a woman and a man. 1 in 5 men will experience abortion, yet their voices are so often excluded from the conversation. To change this, we must change the culture. Men are told to stay silent, told their role is toxic, outdated. We've stripped men of the chance to lead, to protect. Our culture tells men the compassionate thing to say is, "I support you, no matter what you choose." But Vitae Foundation's research shows many women resent that.
Well, that's just the beginning of a video on the Vitae Foundation's website at vitaefoundation.org. And in studio on Wake Up Missouri this morning, Brandy Meeks, the president and CEO, joins us with some really interesting and I think surprising research that you guys have done. Welcome into Wake Up Missouri.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be able to share with you today.
So the narrator says 1 in 5 men experience abortion. What does that mean?
1 in 5 men have had their partner have an abortion during their lifetime, and that's a lot of times that people have not considered the man in this equation. We've turned this into a woman's issue. We've surrendered that to just being about women, and we need to consider that men are also affected by abortion in this country.
So before we get to the study, you all assembled an advisory group and kind of made plans for the study. Can you talk about the steps leading up to the research itself?
Sure. So when we launch a research project, and our research is different. It's not surveys and polling. Like those things are fantastic, but our research is emotional research. It's consumer research. We get to the heart of the matter of why people make the decisions that they do so that we can create messaging strategies to be able to connect with them. And so when we set out on this, we recognized that it was actually women in a past study that had given us the indication that they were offended by the words, "I'll support you no matter what you choose." And even pro-choice women were saying that. Like, I'm only telling him that I'm pregnant because I want to be supported throughout the pregnancy. So we took this data and we decided, let's talk to some men about this. Why are they saying this, right? And so we pulled together an advisory committee that consists of people like Seth Dillon from the Babylon Bee. We have Benjamin Watson, who's a former NFL player that also speaks on this issue, and Archbishop Naumann from Kansas City, Kansas. We had plenty of representation across these influencer groups that we connect with on a regular basis. And we said, okay, guys, help us figure this one out. So they gave us their contribution and ideas about what they're seeing in their spheres of influence. And then we took that to create the research project to interview men all over the country about this subject.
So tell us then, so you conducted the study. Tell us, the results of that study or what you learned from all of that research.
Sure. And you can also go to afewgoodmenstudy.com. or Vitae Foundation Research, although Vitae can be kind of hard to spell for some people, but Vitae is Latin for life, in case you don't know.
Only for Drake to have a hard time spelling that.
I did have some trouble putting that on the screen.
That's okay.
I'm glad we figured it out now. I'm glad we figured it out.
And, okay, the study site again?
afewgoodmenstudy.com.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you go to that website, you're going to be able to see the findings. You're going to be able to see who was involved with our study along the way, and also just the understanding of how we conduct the study as well. But the findings, some of them were not surprising. And for some people, they might feel like it's kind of lackluster. But that's the problem, is that some of the stuff that we discovered is not shocking to us. The fact that men have surrendered their rights to their children because they feel like it's a woman's issue. When we read that, we're like, yeah, that's normal. We know that. But that's the problem, guys, because it's 50% the man's responsibility and child too. And so as you look through these findings, even the things that aren't very surprising, that is where we've got to come in and help change the culture. For example, women are they're looking for the man to lead. I've said this before, and maybe even in the studio, but as men and women, we were designed to be complementary. We were never meant to be in competition with each other. Men are naturally wired as protectors and providers, and women are naturally wired as nurturers. That doesn't mean that women can't lead, right? Mm-hmm. Stephanie gets that. I get that, right? Right. Like, we're leading, we just lead differently, and that's okay. And so the research actually backs the fact that women are looking for men to not be passive on this issue. That's a huge red flag. They want the men to be able to stand and lead with courage, to be able to take a stand on this issue. And men, it's time for you to recognize that we need you to have a voice in this. We need you to protect us, and we certainly need you to protect our children.
Well, it's interesting because I think men, I'm trying to channel sort of the man thought here. Men have been told for many years now to just shut up and sit down. This is my body. You have nothing to do with this.
Mm-hmm.
Just be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Just be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's right.
That's what
exactly
men have been told.
right.
So men finally say,
okay,
I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of fighting. I don't have any skin in this game, even though they do. And so whatever, I'll just do it. And they're hearing that. I mean, look, there's some other political issues that are giving men the same message.
Sure.
Shut up. Just you're worthless. Other people are more important, including women that are carrying your baby. And again, and so men, it's not a resentful thing; it's a resignation thing.
You're
I think. Is that what you understood?
It
from
is.
This research?
It is. And we actually had some men from the study that used these exact words. They said when we told them that women were resenting the fact that they were saying, "I'll support you no matter what you choose," they said, well, damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Bingo.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you're expressing right now. Yeah. But guess what? Who told them that they needed to sit down on this issue, that they needed to sit down and shut up? It was the abortion industry.
Yes.
But see, if we look back, we can see that they influenced our culture. And I worked with former abortion workers for years, and they will testify in court that there were some times that they would work so hard to get the men from attending the appointment with them that they would discourage it from the beginning when they called, and then they would have the men wait in the waiting room, and they would turn the heat up in the waiting room so that the men would go to the cars, and when they would come back out to get the men to bring them back for the appointment, when the woman had gotten to the point where maybe she's going to see the ultrasound, they would go back and tell her, like, I'm sorry, I don't know where he is. Well, it's because he went out to his car because they were purposely tried to make him as uncomfortable as possible. The abortion industry knows that men are part of the answer. When a woman feels supported, she's going to choose life for her baby.
Wow.
It's powerful.
That's Brandy Meek. She's president and CEO of the Vitae Foundation. That's VITAE. And you can learn more at afewgoodmenstudy.com. And it's just startling to have this, what I think most of us want to be able to express, would have been told when you do, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't, as you said. And so men finally just give up. And I think you're finding that in this study.
We're looking down the road to the, November election when the infamous Amendment 3 will be back on the ballot, referencing the whole question that was done regarding abortion in Missouri, passed by about 52% or all. What's your feeling as we go into the month of February?
I think that is something we're going to have to be keenly aware of as well, is that we have this issue that's coming up, and we have a lot of people who were on the fence last time. And again, that's why we have to reach men. People who would personally say, I wouldn't choose abortion, but I don't want to make that decision for someone else. Again, strong woman here saying we need you to protect us and we need you to protect our children. So we need people that are willing to step up and recognize the lies that have been fed to them and take a stand, because that's what we need in this country is leadership. We need strong leadership again. So let's inspire that within our circles of influence.
Well, and you all are really leading the way in this with this men's study. And we had talked to Congressman Onder, I think, right before the March for Life. He was planning to attend that in D.C. You actually attended and were able to. Your folks were able to present this groundbreaking research there at a summit. So talk to us about your experience. What was that, just a few weeks ago?
Yeah, it was. And I tell you what, the weather was wild. You guys, the weather was wild coming up to that. I mean, I had a whole backup plan for my team about, okay, if this happens and this happens, we're going to escape here and we're going to go here. I was actually on the phone with Riley Gaines, who's done some speaking for us before. We were texting back and forth about the fact they were getting stranded there. And she's like, how did you get out? And I said, girl, we pre-planned. And I think that's part of what we're doing right now with the amendment, too. Is that we're pre-planning. We're trying to make sure that we are talking to people and not just trying to, guys, this is not just a legal issue. I need you to understand that. This is a cultural issue about protecting human dignity. Because right now in our state, abortions can happen up until birth. This is alarming. We are as extreme as states like Colorado, California, New York, places where they celebrate by lighting up buildings. Guys, they might as well be lighting up our arch right now.
You talked about culture, and I'm looking at major finding on this study, major finding number 5.
Okay.
Men who are not committed have low trust in their girlfriend partner who in short-term relationship feel less strongly about keeping the baby and more strongly. We're in a hookup culture, Brandy Meeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's so many spokes from this hub, the research of this hub. I'm thinking if I'm a gal out there and I don't want an unwanted pregnancy, I need to be a gatekeeper of my dignity. I'm sorry. I'm going to say it. And
Raise
I think
your
that
standards, ladies. Raise your standards.
And men too. Where is that sort of desire for commitment, for trust, for relationship before the physical intimacy? I think that our modern culture doesn't understand that, and that results in a lot of these unwanted pregnancies. And let's be honest, your research says that the typical scenario. Oh my God, I'll pay for the abortion. Whoo, sorry that happened. Whoo, nice to have known you, right? I mean. And there's you validated a certain element of that.
We did, but also
hookups are not good.
They're not. But something else that came out of this, though, is that men actually accepted the responsibility in their heads once they begin a sexual relationship with a woman. They accept the natural consequence if there is a pregnancy outcome of it, which is different than what we've seen in the past with women. That was interesting.
That's interesting.
Yes, and also connects with the child pretty early on because he recognizes, and this is the wild thing though, guys. He recognizes the humanity of the child at heartbeat. Okay. But he doesn't know when the heartbeat begins. Guys, I'm here to tell you, in order for that heartbeat to begin, there's DNA. So let's just connect it back a little bit step further. That happens the moment that the egg and the sperm are joined, right? And so I think that that's something else that men need to understand. Like they are when they are in a sexual relationship with a woman, they feel like if a pregnancy happens, that they have entered into that decision and they need to parent this child together.
Well,
check out more on their website. Again, this new study is groundbreaking. There's a lot of interesting things to continue the conversation, but you've also got 2 big events coming up.
We do. We have Riley Gaines, who's coming to speak for us in Jefferson City, March 26th. And we have Turning Point commentator Brandon Tatum, or contributor Brandon Tatum, Officer Tatum, who's going to be speaking for us in Columbia in May. We just haven't announced the date yet, so hang on.
Officer Tatum's cool.
He is.
Brandy Meeks, thanks to you and the Vitae folks for all you do. It makes a huge difference. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that is a fewgoodmenstudy.com. You can remember that, guys and gals. Take a look at it. It'll be quite eye-opening for you. That's saying a minimum. When we come back, the Market Report with Stephanie. Stay tuned.
It's Wake Up Miss
markets.
It was a mixed bag yesterday with the NASDAQ down pretty big at down 1.51%, the S&P down 0.51%, the Dow up 0.53%. As we look at the losers yesterday, consumer discretionary, communication services, and technology were all big down, while we saw pretty big gains in real estate, materials, and energy. As we look at the futures, they are all down pretty significantly. So it is not real pretty despite all of the earnings numbers. Again, we were expecting a jobs report out Friday, but that is going to be delayed due to the short-lived shutdown. Okay, so we've been talking a little bit about Gen Z killing things, right? They kill a lot of things. And we're going to say RIP to two more things. I'm particularly sad about one. First of all, Eddie Bauer has announced that it is going to, or is expected to, close all of its North American stores.
What?
Its parent company is called Catalyst Brands, and it is preparing for a bankruptcy filing. They have approximately 180 locations across the U.S. and Canada, and Catalyst Brands has the license to operate these stores. It also oversees things like Lucky Brand, Aeropostale, Nautica, Brooks Brothers, and JCPenney. Of course, we know that JCPenney filed for bankruptcy during the COVID pandemic, and it has continued to close stores due to slow foot traffic and bad sales.
That's really interesting.
Eddie Bauer, it's one of those things that's just like always there.
I
never shop there, but
I remember when the traffic at Eddie Bauer at certain times was like the traffic at Bed Bath and Beyond. You know,
I remember when they partnered up with Ford for a number of years, and a lot of their SUVs and pickups are high line, XLT package. They even had an Eddie Bauer dress up package.
Well, that is no more. So R.I.P. Eddie Bauer. Also R.I.P. to the frozen sludge orange juice. And I'm real sad about this one.
Yeah.
So Minute Maid is discontinuing all canned frozen juice concentrates. So if you're down in Osage County and you like to make a gin Ricky with your lime and lemon sludge, or like my mother-in-law likes to make her orange juice in a blender with the orange frozen concentrate.
Yeah.
And it makes like the best orange juice because it's kind of slushy and really cold.
You get the ice feel, yeah.
They
Why
said
is
the
that?
products are going to disappear once the current inventory sells out. So you better go stock up if this is
Super Bowl.
For
do your margaritas with the lime stuff.
Oh my gosh, it's sad. I'm actually really sad about this. So apparently the product was born when the U.S. Army ordered 500,000 pounds of orange juice from Florida Foods in 1945. But they're saying that Coca-Cola later bought the Minute Maid brand. Everyone's kind of going toward, easy to use, the regular OJ. So just declining sales. They're saying consumer tastes have shifted away from using the frozen concentrate. But apparently there is a small sect of people on social media who are feeling the same way I'm feeling this morning, and pretty sad about that.
Are they doing that with like the lime too?
Orange
Limeade
juice, lemonade, limeade, pink lemonade,
man.
and raspberry lemonade.
Yeah.
So go stock up now.
How are you going to get your frozen daiquiri made?
There you go.
Darn. Isn't that something? That's wild. Boy, how times change. Well, there's always Tang. No, but that's powdered. No? I don't know. What would you do if he got stopped at an ICE agitator checkpoint? 573-874-9390.
Has America been fair to Donald Trump? The people always know what's going on. I don't think the president knows how everybody is living right now, so I think the people are fair enough.
Her health, her heart is fragile. She lives in constant pain. She is without any medicine. She needs it to survive. She needs it not to suffer. We too have heard the reports about a ransom letter in the media. As a family, we are doing everything that we can. We are ready to talk.
That's Savannah Guthrie sitting alongside her siblings, talking about their mother who was abducted from her home 4 days ago. No new news on that other than it's been taped off as a crime scene. Reports initially about some spots of blood at the exit door, and dogs and drones and grid searching going on around the area around that home in Arizona. So Pima County Sheriff Nanos, I think is his name, will have a press conference later today, we understand. So we'll be talking about that, I'm sure, tomorrow to see if there's any new news. One of the most bizarre stories I can recall in a long time. I mean, the last one that I think drew national attention was the search for Luigi Mangione that I can recall. Before that, Kohlberger up in Utah. But
I don't remember a high-profile kidnapping of an older person.
Yeah, strange. One of our text folks says that they did some looking into a woman on social media who's done some investigation on Nancy Guthrie. He says he's looked at this. I don't know, that the brother-in-law used to work for Clinton administration when they were in the White House. I don't know. There's those long surfaced rumors and theories that anyone that touches the Clintons better watch out, buy some extra life insurance. Remember Vince Foster?
Yep.
Remember that story? Allegedly shot himself, but the circumstances around where the gun and how it was in juxtaposition to him just didn't make a whole lot of sense to people that know more about these kind of things than I do. We live in a weird time. I mean, I don't know. So you wonder, if you grew up trusting institutions, and then what's gone on with some of the exposés about the Russia hoax and the CDC involvement and their influence by the National Educational Association and other teachers' organizations, we've lost faith in so many of our institutions. You begin to wonder, can we trust anything that anyone from any federal institution, or for that matter, any authority institution says anytime, anywhere? News reporting, you can't believe it because it's a rush to the report.
Except
rather than
for us, because we're never
Well,
wrong.
we are always accurate, of course.
Right.
Yeah. Ooh. Well, we try, but when we get it wrong, we correct ourselves, and we're pretty unabashed about
Or
that.
you correct us on the text line.
Yeah, thank you for that. No,
Even
thank you for
better.
that. You're right. It's good. It's very good. It's important. It's authenticity. It's funny how the public is telling the leaders in this country, and they're not getting it, I don't think. We just want your best good faith effort at the truth. And when it turns out what you thought was the truth isn't, just tell us. We have a fair amount of grace. But we don't want to be taken advantage of. And we don't want to be
called a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, we don't want to be considered fools because we ask questions. Or, like you said, conspiracy theorists. I think the Epstein files are the perfect example about that, right? They promised us they were going to release them. Then Pam Bondi does her theatrical 3-ring binder trick with social media influencers. What's that all about? What were you thinking?
Months ago, and now we're finally getting some names. And there are a lot of names.
But speak about institutions, right? Just because someone had an email text with a highly influential guy that could connect one person with another across the globe that might do business together, that doesn't mean they're criminals. It doesn't mean that they knew anything about it. Now, once they did, if they did, obviously you can question, why did you keep associating with a guy like this, right?
Yeah, and I think the emails show, like, some people, like, it was just like a in passing thing, and other people it showed they had a real relationship with this guy.
I was talking about Peter Attia, this doctor who runs the website, a podcast called The Drive. A lot of really cutting edge longevity research, but he's become sort of one of these, you can go see him and get the workout, and they do all these tests, and $100,000 or more to become one of it. Okay, celebrity doc, whatever. But he does a lot of good stuff, and he breaks down some of the research that really he gets to the kernel of the matter rather than the headline of the matter. But anyway, so he became implicated because one of his texts was, and he admits in his rebuttal or his answer to that, his statement, I really got wrapped up in something at that time in my career. I wasn't as discerning as I now am, and it was a mistake to associate. But one of the emails was, "Wow, you sure," to Epstein, "Wow, can't learn. You sure live an outrageous lifestyle." Well, the media has painted that to say, "Oh, outrageous. He must have known about the trafficking." I mean, don't you often say like, "Wow, Stephanie, what an outrageous life you have. You go to Europe and okay, outrageous doesn't mean corrupt or criminal, right? It can mean in a complimentary way. Like, wow, what an outrageous life you live. Celebrities live outrageous lives. Well-connected people, the lives of the rich and famous are pretty outrageous.
Well, and we're learning just how outrageous his life was because I think when there are people who are in politics and they're very influential in that sphere. There are people who kind of run around with the business bros and they're very influential there. There's Hollywood. And I think for a lot of people, like we thought a lot of this was more siloed, and Epstein somehow covered them all. Yeah. And I think that in and of itself is outrageous. Like the fact that he just every aspect. He was at sports. I mean, he's wrapped up with some of these sports figures too. So it's just
which is why whenever I am increasingly the older you get, tell me if I'm right or wrong, but the more charismatic a person is, the more I need to prove that they're real. Does that make sense? You see what I'm saying? You can be the best, slick, engaging, wonderful. Just I got to do a little more investigation. I got to figure out a little more about this before I, dive in, right?
Yeah, and I think think about like Elizabeth Holmes with her. Yep. What was her company? I forget the name of it. But she had
genetics.
But that's what she had this like crazy personality and this overconfidence and this like low, calm voice, and she tricked everybody.
Right.
I think we've all been there before. Like we've known someone, we thought they were like this awesome person, and then your world turns upside down, and you're like, wow, they really had me going.
What about the fallen religious leaders? Oh, a lot of the stuff that goes on there, and it's not that great people, knowing great people, doing great things, don't have their flaws. They're humans. They'll make mistakes. But this is systemic, evil, demonic activity that Jeffrey Epstein was in. And either these people didn't know about it, or they were in denial, or I don't understand it.
Yeah, I think from the email, I think it's pretty clear to me, just holistically, that like somebody there were people who knew about it, and who were looking the other way or actively participating. I don't know, and again, have not been through the thousands and thousands of pages of documents. I'm not sure that we know yet who had knowledge.
Yeah. Well, you think about Alan Dershowitz. Remember, he was accused by someone who, he basically fought it back. You never say never. Did Alan Dershowitz have a relationship with some underage person that Jeffrey Epstein? He's a Harvard law professor with a pretty good amount of cred behind him. Why would he do something so stupid?
Harvard doesn't mean what it used to.
Well, but he was the used to Harvard, right? Even though I disagree with him on many of his political stances.
And I think we've talked about this before. That's one downside is like, if you just met this guy in passing and your name happens to be in the emails, it potentially implicates people who had no knowledge and nothing to do with any of this and just got caught up in it.
Well, look at some of the kind of damning stuff we've seen in some of that. And Elon supposedly asking when's the biggest party going to be, and the recent pictures of Prince Andrew.
Right.
Squatting over the female, unidentified female, and
let's bring it to Missouri. How many people hung out with, got along with, maybe shared a cigar and a beer and a whiskey with the former Speaker of the House who got in trouble over in Kansas City, got sentenced recently? What's his name?
For I think COVID fraud.
For COVID
John
fraud.
Deal.
Yeah. John Deal.
I think.
Well, does that mean that...
What about the former governor of Missouri?
Yeah. Does that mean that everyone that had a political relationship with, which often intermingles with social relationships, is somehow an evil criminal because there's an email thread between them and now someone who's, convicted of fraud? No. And that's what I get worried about. Just because someone intersected with Jeffrey Epstein's life, does that make them by default somehow now existentially tarnished? I don't know. I don't know the answer to the question, but we have to be careful.
A client that I'm really interested in, learning more about is Stephen Hawking. Apparently, he was a big guy there, and I don't know if this is true or not. I haven't looked through all the emails, but apparently he may or may not have gotten his head duct taped to the back of his chair and taken on a scuba dive at the island.
Well,
what?
I'm not kidding. That's like a thing. He always wanted to dive, I guess.
Now remember that Jeffrey Epstein was apparently, I have not looked at all, but from some of the reporting, appears as though a lot of these connections were based on funding research, scientific research, right?
Where did all that money come from, though?
I get it, but if you're the recipient of a grant and you're working on the solution to cancer, you're going to shake hands with Jeffrey Epstein, apparently.
If he's giving you the money, yeah.
Now, if you know that money's dirty, I got a problem.
Right.
I agree. And will we ever know?
Well, and a lot of those names in defense of that, running buddies were a whole lot of multi-zillionaires. Everybody from Bill Gates to Elon to Trump and all sorts of names in there. And, maybe it was all above board.
Yeah, maybe it was. Look at King David. Oh, what was that? No, wait. Okay. You just baited me there.
I don't. What
was the smirk about
what
that?
do you? What?
Well, I'm just saying there are evil. There are people. There are good people that do evil things. There are evil people that some of what they do turns out to have some good. Well, okay. It's too much to go into.
It's a lost cause,
It's
Randy.
a lost cause. I'm not gonna. I think we should think about the fact that there may have come some good out of that people were absolutely innocent, but they get caught up in an email thread, and then suddenly, I think we got to be careful about that. All right, when we come back, we'll wrap it up with leftovers. President speaking at the National Prayer Breakfast as we speak.
It's Wake Up.
been talking about the Epstein files, and, at what point, if you're being given a check at a fundraiser by Jeffrey Epstein, which apparently he did a lot of, and you're just a networker, externally, but you're a demonic scoundrel in your private life and in maybe involving others who, in one way or another connected to you. How do you sort that all out? I think Dana says it best. Dana texts us, absolutely no excuse for the horrible things he did and his lady friend did. But at one point, he was almost like the popular jock in high school. You don't really know why you want him to like you, but you do. That doesn't mean absolutely everyone in photos did things that were untoward. Some people got caught up in his money and his social snowball. But she makes an interesting point. These girls that were trafficked, these underage girls, where were the parents? Where were the authority figures in their life? Were they runaways? Where do you get these girls, and who's looking?
Weren't a lot of them foreign?
Who's looking over them? Isn't someone looking over them? Or did they get caught up in some kind of a lie, like, hey, we've got a job for you. We want you to be the receptionist at the hotel, whatever.
Well, it was big in movies. Isn't that like how a lot of people start their trafficking? Like, I've got a modeling job, or you can be an extra on this movie, and they think they're going to get rich and famous, and then they end up getting trafficked.
Very often drugs involved in that. Right?
Yeah. I think that's like a common...
It is just so sad. I tell you, it's just so sad.
Way people get...
These lives are ruined forever. They may recover and they get counseling and they're able to function, but their lives are ruined in some of the deepest, darkest ways,
So you're telling me that modeling job is not real that I got the other day?
Fair.
I feel like I should check
Fake news here on Wake Up Missouri this morning.
Oh, Randy, I could be a great model.
For what?
Stephanie, you want to weigh in on that?
There's hand models. There's
there you go.
There's
yeah. You could be you're thin. You got to be a model. Although wait a minute, no, you don't need to be thin anymore to be a model, right? Used to be, but now they've got normal sized people. Yeah.
Correct.
I thought men models were supposed to be
bulky,
big and muscular and all that,
or gay,
or both,
Yeah.
Who's that guy that's in Wicked that's so hot?
Wicked?
Wicked 2. Guy
that... Well, he was in Wicked 1, right?
I don't
know.
Isn't
he the number one guy? He sings the song. I don't know. He was
is.
Oh, yeah, he was the most... Yeah, he's
Jonathan Bailey.
The handsomest man on the planet.
Yeah.
He's gay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you can be... many... Let's move on.
He's beautiful.
So we had another texture that says Epstein was demonic. The others were a part of it. Not complex. Period. I said, you have proof that everyone that was at a party in New York City with him were directly involved? Don't need it. Ask Stephanie about guilt by association. Well, okay, let's ask Stephanie about guilt by association.
Look at the teenagers that were in the car in the cell phone shooting, what we just saw, right? There's accomplice liability, but here I think it's a different situation with Epstein.
And then an interesting analogy, if you jump in the ocean and claim you won't get wet, just saying. I think that's a bit different than being at a grand premiere party with Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, it's one of those kind of things. I think that, some of the common thoughts out there are that maybe a lot of these big folks were not directly involved, but did they know it was common knowledge that this is what he was up to?
Did they know, and when did they know it? And again, perception can be reality. And to me, that's the frightening thing. Especially after the first conviction, right? You got to wonder. At that point, the guy's a convicted, sex offender, pedophile. Or no, I think he got it. Didn't he get it pleaded down to prostitution? I think he did. I think it was pleaded down in Florida. And then that guy who was that prosecutor in that Florida case in the 2008, whenever, that was questioned. And he was, I think, Department of Transportation under Biden, maybe for a little while. And then he resigned when this all came up. Maybe it was Trump. Bottom line is, perception is reality. And even if there's some ugly things going on, you got to be careful. Do your research. We'll do our research about what's happening today and bring it to you tomorrow along with Feel Good Friday. Thanks for being with us.
Bye.